Book of Heaven, Volume 13. 3rd to the 17th of January 1922. Page 76 to 83. January 3, 1922. The relations which exist between the divine will and the human will. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus, on coming, told me, "Daughter of my volition, come into my will that you may know the relations which exist between the divine will and the human will, which the creature shattered from the very terrestrial Eden. But the soul who knows no other life but the life of my will, rebuilds my will, binds it once again, giving back to it all the relations which the creature had broken, relations of creation, and of principle of existence. These were bonds of union between creator and creature, relations of likeness, sanctity, science, power. Everything I contain I placed in relation with man, relations in order of all created things, and to him I gave primacy over everything. Now, by withdrawing from my will, he broke all these relations, and placed himself in relation with sin, with passions, with his fiercest enemy. Therefore, the soul who lives in my will rises so high as to leave everyone behind. She places herself in order between me and her. She gives herself back to the origin, and places all broken relations in force. All created things form her cortege and recognize her as their legitimate daughter, feeling honored to be dominated by her. The purpose for which they were created, to be commanded and to obey her slightest wishes, is already accomplished. Therefore, all nature remains reverent around her, and exults in seeing that finally its God receives the glory of the purpose for which he had created it, that of serving man. And so, fire, light, water, cold, will let themselves be commanded, and will faithfully obey. And just as my love immediately prepared the remedy in order to save man, by descending from heaven and becoming man, so this soul who lives in my will, by giving herself back to the beginning, to her eternal origin from which she came, even before my humanity was formed, already kissed and adored my blood and my wounds, honored my steps and my works, and formed a worthy cortege to my humanity. O soul who lives in my will, you alone are the purpose of the glory of creation, the decorum and the honor of my works, and the fulfillment of my redemption. In you I centralize everything. May all relations be given back to you. And if out of weakness you should lack something, for the decorum and the honor of my will I will make up for you in everything. Therefore, be attentive, and give this highest contentment to your Jesus. January 5, 1922. The divine being is led by an irresistible force to communicate itself to the creature. Jesus cannot bear seeing a soul who lives in his will afflicted because of him. I was feeling very embittered, and my Jesus, on coming, clasping all of me to himself, told me, "My daughter, your affliction weighs upon my heart more than if it were my own. I cannot bear that you be so embittered, and I want to see you happy at any cost. I want to see the smile that the beatitude of my will brings, arise on your lips again. Tell me then, what do you want so that I may render you happy again? Is it possible that after so much time in which you have denied me nothing, I should not give you what you want and make you content? And I, my love, what I want is that you give me the grace to always, always do your will. This is enough for me. How much I fear that I may not do it. Isn't this the greatest misfortune, not doing your will, even in the tiniest thing? Yet, your proposals, your very attentions induce me to this, because I see that you want to do my will, not because this is your will, but because you want to make me happy and empty my heart of the bitterness with which it is as though soaked. Ah, Jesus, Jesus, do not permit this. If you want to make me happy, your power does not lack other means to take me away from my affliction." And Jesus, my daughter, daughter of my will, no, do not fear. It will never be that our wills be even just injured. If a miracle is necessary, I will do it, but our wills will never separate. Therefore, calm yourself on this regard, and be cheered. Listen, my being is led by an irresistible force to communicate itself to the creature. I have many more things to tell you yet, many more truths which you do not know. All of my truths carry the happiness that each one contains, and as many truths as the soul knows, so many different happinesses she acquires. Now, in finding your heart embittered, they feel their happinesses being shaded, and they cannot communicate themselves freely. I am like a happy father, who possesses the fullness of the whole of happiness, and wants to make all of his children happy. Now, if he sees that one of his children really loves him, and he sees him sad, pensive, at any cost he wants to make his child happy and to free him from that embarrassment. And if the father knows that that sadness is caused by the love that the child has for him, then he cannot give himself peace. He uses all of his arts, and makes any sacrifice to render his child happy. So I am. And since I know that your affliction is because of me, if I do not see you come back again to your state of joy, and be marked with my own happiness, I will make myself unhappy, waiting for you to return into the arms of my happiness. January 11, 1922. The souls who live in the divine will be for the body of the Church like skin to the body, and will bring to all of its members the circulation of life. Finding myself in my usual state, I was thinking about the holy divine will, and I said to myself, all the children of the Church are members of the mystical body, of which Jesus is the head. What place will the souls who do the will of God occupy in this mystical body? And Jesus, always benign, on coming, told me, my daughter, the Church is my mystical body, of which I glory in being the head. But in order to enter this mystical body, the members must grow to a proper stature, otherwise they would deform my body. But, alas! How many not only do not have the due proportion, but are rotten, wounded, so much as to be disgusting to my head and to the other healthy members. Now, the souls who live, or will live in my will be for the body of my Church like skin to the body. The body has internal skin and external skin, and because in the skin there is the blood circulation which gives life to the whole body, it is by virtue of this circulation that the members reach the proper stature. If it wasn't for the skin and for the blood circulation, the human body would be horrible to the sight, and its members would not grow to the due proportion. Now, see how these souls who live in my will are necessary to me. Since I have destined them to be like skin to the body of my Church, and like circulation of life for all the members, they will be the ones who will give the proper growth to the members which have not grown, who will heal the wounded members, and who will restore the freshness, the beauty, the splendor of the whole mystical body by their continuous living in my will, rendering it fully similar to my head, which will sit in full majesty upon all those members. This is why the end of days cannot come if I do not have these souls who live as though dissolved in my will. They interest me more than anything. What impression would this mystical body make in the celestial Jerusalem without them? And if this is what interests me more than anything, it must interest you also more than anything, if you love me. From now on, I will give to your acts done in my will the virtue of circulation of life for the whole mystical body of the Church. Just like the blood circulation in the human body, your acts, extended within the immensity of my will extend over all and will cover these members like skin, giving them proper growth. Therefore, be attentive and faithful. Then, afterwards, I was praying, all abandoned in the will of Jesus, and almost without thinking, I said, my love, everything in your will, my little pains, my prayers, my heartbeat, my breathing, all I am and all I can, united to all that you are, so as to give proper growth to the members of the mystical body. In hearing me, Jesus made himself seen again, and smiling with satisfaction, added, how beautiful it is to see my truths in your heart as fount of life immediately having the development and the effect for which they have communicated themselves. Therefore, correspond with me, and as soon as I see one truth developed, I will make it an honor for myself to make another fount of truth arise. January 14, 1922. The Most Holy Trinity, inaccessible light that gives life to all. I found myself outside of myself, and I saw the heavens opened, and a light, inaccessible to any creature. Rays descended from within this light, which invested all creatures, celestial, terrestrial and purging. Some rays were so dazzling that, though remaining invested, enraptured and delighted, one would not know how to describe anything of what they contained. Other rays were less dazzling, and one could describe the beauty, the happiness and the truths which they contained. However, the power of the light was such that I myself didn't know whether my little mind would ever be capable of going back into myself again. If my Jesus had not shaken me with his words, no human force could have pulled me back from that light, to call me back to life. But, alas, I am still unworthy of my dear celestial fatherland. My unworthiness forces me to wander in exile, but, oh, how hard this is for me. Then Jesus told me, "My daughter, let us go back together into your bed. What you see is the most holy Trinity, as though holding all creatures in the palm of its hand, and as it gives life, preserves, purges and delights from its simple breath, there is no creature which does not hang upon it. Its light is inaccessible to created mind. If anyone wanted to enter, it would happen to him as to a person who wanted to enter into a great fire. Not having sufficient heat and power to face this fire, he would be consumed by the fire. Therefore, being extinguished, he will never be able to say either how much or what kind of heat that fire contained. The rays are the divine virtues. Some virtues are less adaptable to created mind. This is why the created mind is delighted by them. It can see them, but is unable to describe anything. The other virtues, which are more adaptable to the human mind, can be described, but like a stammerer would do, because no one can speak about them in a right and worthy manner. The virtues which are more adaptable to the human mind are love, mercy, goodness, beauty, justice, science. Therefore, together with me, let us send our homages to the most holy Trinity in the name of all, to thank it, praise it and bless it for so much goodness toward creatures. Then, after I prayed together with Jesus, I returned into myself. January 17, 1922. Every good that the creature does, is a sip of life that she gives to her soul. I was following the passion of my sweet Jesus. In one instant I found myself outside of myself, and I saw my always lovable Jesus being dragged along the streets, trampled, beaten, more than in the passion itself. He was being treated in such a barbaric way as to be repugnant to the sight. I approached my sweet Jesus to snatch him from under the feet of those enemies, who looked like many incarnate demons. He threw himself into my arms, as if he were waiting for me to defend him, and I brought him into my bed. Then, after quite a few minutes of silence, as though wanting to rest, he said to me, "My daughter, have you seen how vice and passions triumph in these sad times? How victoriously they walk along all the streets, while good is trampled, beaten and annihilated. Good is me. There is no good that a creature may do, in which I am not involved. And every good that the creature does, is a sip of life that she gives to her soul. Therefore, the more good acts she does, the more the life of her soul grows, rendering her stronger and more disposed to do more good acts. However, in order to be exempt from any poisonous substance, these acts must be upright, without human purpose, and only to please me. Otherwise, the most beautiful acts, which appear to be the holiest, who knows how much poison they contain? And I, being pure good, shun these contaminated acts, and I do not communicate life. Therefore, although it seems that they do good, their good is empty of life, and creatures feed themselves with foods which give them death. Evil strips the soul of the garment of grace, it deforms her, it forces her to swallow poison, so as to make her die immediately. Poor creatures, made for life, for happiness, for beauty, while sin does nothing but give them sips of death, sips of unhappiness, sips of ugliness, which, taking all vital humors away from her, make of her dry wood, to burn with greater intensity in hell.